Okay, hi Matt, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Glad to be here.
Thank you for coming on the show. You were on the audio podcast about a year and a half ago. It was December 2020. Do you remember what book we talked about at that point?
It was probably my historical novel, What the Wind Brings.
And you're back, and now you're on the video show, and we're going to be talking about Barbarians of the Beyond. What genre would this book? Is this a science fiction or what is it?
This is pure space opera of an old fashioned kind of science fiction.
Old fashioned kind of science fiction. How is that different
Well,
than.
it's an authorized sequel, or more likely a companion novel, to a very famous series of books published in the 60s and 70s by the Grandmaster Jack Vance. The series was called The Demon Princes, and it's considered one of his most iconic works. And his estate, his son John, essentially, authorized me to write a sort of what happened next story out of the Demon Princes. Not the same characters, new characters, but the same setting, the same universe.
Okay, so you're basically taking his work, Jack's work, and then just sort of picking up where he left off.
Sort of. It's actually contemporary with two of the books in the series, the first two. Um, the Demon Princes is a story of revenge. There's this group of five evil space opera villains, master criminals of a lawless piece of space called the Beyond, who raided a community on a planet called Providence. The community was called Mount Pleasant, and they simply took everybody, 5,000 people, and sold them into slavery. And one of the people they didn't catch, who was out of town at the time, a young boy, was raised by his grandfather to take revenge on these people. And one book at a time, he takes revenge on the five demon princes. What I've done is 20 years after the raid, one of the, one was actually a fetus at the time of the raid, comes back to the planet. She's escaped from the pirate that owned her, and she wants to find something of great value that her parents hid before they were stolen away, because she believes she can buy them out of servitude with what she can get for this treasure that they've hidden.
Okay, how
And
far into the future is this? Do you have a
oh, very, very far.
yeah?
This is, as I say, it's real space opera. So people hop from one planet to another the way you and I would hop on a plane to go from one city to another. There are two realms, we will say. One is the human settled space that is civilized and has police, and then there's the beyond, which is more like the Wild West. There is some local law, but in other places, pirates and bandits, they rule.
Have you done that kind of work before? I had another guest on a couple of weeks ago who was talking about. I think the way he described it was playing in someone else's sandbox.
It's exactly how I described it. Yeah.
Okay.
I have not, well, I have in a sense. I did a Wolverine novel for Simon and Schuster about a dozen, 15 years ago. Um, and that was a for hire job where you don't get royalties, you just get paid a fee and you don't own any rights to it. Um, but otherwise, no. I mostly I've written my own stuff. But the reason they picked me to do this Jack Vance companion novel is that I am, well, Booklist has called me Vance's heir apparent. I'm heavily influenced by what he did and how he did it, and I am kind of standing on the shoulders of the giant and writing not only space opera in the kind of realms that he created and sustained for decades, but also in that strange world that he conjured up called the Dying Earth, which is Earth at the very, very, very end of time, Science has collapsed, magic has come back. I've done a number of novels set in that milieu.
How does Barbarians of the Beyond, the setup of the book, is it anything similar to Jack Vance?
Oh, very similar. There are elements of the Demon Prince's novels are woven into the story, and fans of Vance will recognize them as little Easter eggs. Otherwise, it's a straightforward adventure story with good guys and bad guys, and sometimes they're kind of interchangeable. It's about this young woman who is determined to get her parents out of bondage, and then there are all the complications that ensue because she comes to the place where her parents lived and were stolen away from. And of course, it was left as a ghost town for years. But then a bunch of people from another planet moved in, and they're kind of a cult. And they base their religion around chewing this herb, which I called maunch, which gives them, well, about the same effect as magic mushrooms. But then another group of people came in and said, well, we could make a living out of this dope dealing, and kind of took over the cult. So it's a complex situation that she walks into, especially since in the Beyond, they're always on the lookout for agents, police agents coming from the civilized part, the oikumene as it's called, and they deal with them very harshly. They capture them, torture them, kill them. So she's got that to worry about, that she might be thought to be what the bad guys call a weasel. And she's also got to push the plan forward that her parents have been inculcating in her since she was a little girl. Get there, do this, do that, make it happen.
Do you plan on making this into a series?
No. This is strictly a one-off. I mean, the character ends up where she needs to end up, and I'm not going to go and do another sequel about what happened to her next. I don't really like doing series. I like doing stories set in the same universe, but I have different characters getting different points of view and experiences in that universe. I would like to do another play in Vance's Sandbox, maybe a year or so down the road, but it would be a different story. He has quite a number of places that he landed in his universe, and there's one that's a cluster of stars called the Alastor cluster, and he did 3 or 4 novels on this planet or that planet with this character and that character, and I wouldn't mind trying one of those.
Okay, which do you find more challenging, working in someone else's sandbox or starting from scratch?
Well, I'm going to say neither, really, because I'm not one of those writers who plans everything out. I start with a character and a situation, and then I make it go forward from there, and sort of evolve the setting and the other characters as necessary to make the story work. So, with the Vance book, I pretty well had a blank canvas in terms of the world, because all we know about the world that she lands on is that once upon a time, a bunch of people were stolen from it. So I could extrapolate from, how things were, just on the basis of what came into my mind. So it's the same as if I were starting one of my own books, completely blank. I don't know. When I start a book, I don't know what's going to happen. I get to know the character as scenes develop, and when I feel like it's time for an antagonist to come in and make life difficult, then I do that. But it's all intuitive. My unconscious tells me what to do next, and I say, okay, and then I edit that.
Last question, and this has nothing to do with writing. This is just something I see on your bio that I'm curious about. It says, since 2007, you have traveled the world as a house sitter living in 12 countries.
Yes.
Can you make a living at that? I mean, do people pay you to come sit in their
No,
house?
no, 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 no.
No.
I make a living. Well, I've got my pensions now because I'm old enough. But I make a living from writing. I don't make a great living from writing because you either, in this day and age, you either make Stephen King money or just not enough. But I get to live for free. Right now I'm in a house in a city called Prince George. I will spend 4 months here this summer. This is the sixth time that we've been up here. So I've got a house and electricity and water and Wi-Fi and all of that laid on, and it doesn't cost me a penny. I have no idea how much money I've saved in 15 years almost of not paying any bills, but it's quite a bit.
Oh, I see. So people the house is yours to use. People go away for vacation or they live somewhere else part of the year. You stay
Yep.
there and take care of the house, and you live rent-free, basically.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what it is. There's usually an animal or two to take care of. There used to be an old cat here, but he died. Lovely old thing he was. His name was Oscar. But they still want us to look after the house because it can't be left standing empty. It's in a condo strata title thing where the rules say you've got to have that house looked after. And we will go from here down to Victoria, the end of Vancouver Island, for about 3 weeks in September. And then we will do 6 weeks on Salt Spring Island, which is beautiful, in the Gulf Islands. I'm looking for something for December. And then it'll be Salt Spring again for January and February. Again, this is repeat business. These are people we've sat for before.
You've been doing this consistently since 2007?
I have been a homeless drifter.
A homeless,
for
all
almost
right.
15 years.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay.
Well, it's not a lifestyle that would suit everybody, but it suits me. I had a rather peripatetic upbringing. We were always moving, and times were good. We went and rented someplace nice. Times were bad. We rented someplace slummy. I went to 16 different schools, and I skipped a grade, so that was 12 years. So this actually, it's the kind of the way I was raised. No place is permanent. You just pick up and go.
Well, Matt, we got to wind this down. We are out of time. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Do you have a website you want to give out?
I do. It's Matthew Hughes, 2 T's in Matthew, .org. And one thing I want to plug, I have a monthly emailed newsletter. I'll be writing it in the next few days to go out in July. And if you go to my webpage, there's a place there where you can sign up for the newsletter. And right now, if you do that, I will send you a free ebook, a Kindle book, all full of stories that were published in the magazine of fantasy and science fiction. So they're classy stuff. That's a good market.
Okay.
But again, MatthewHughes.org.
All right, great.
Fine.
Well, thanks again for coming on. It was nice to talk to you. Best of luck.